So today we got these new power carving tools from Arbortech.
Now we've got an idea to make this really cool bowl out of this live edge slab that we have. However, we thought it would be a much better idea to practice on some scrap stuff and at the same time kind of give you guys a lot of tips and tricks of how to use the tools. So let's jump outside and test them out. The turboplane easily attaches to most 4 or 4.5 inch angle grinders. Just insert it on the arbor and tighten it down.
To prevent the wood from flying away, I stuck it down with some double-sided tape. I have to admit I was a little nervous to try this out, but once I touched the disc to the wood, I realized this tool was going to be super easy to use. So the first tip I have is don't set the front down and press because it's going to want to fly back at you.
Now it's my turn to give it a shot. The first thing that I noticed is how smoothly the disc cut. I kind of expected it to be grabby, but as long as I held the angle grinder firmly, I really had no issues. So my first tip was about how much pressure to apply. I found that it actually works a lot better if you basically just use the weight of the tool and just kind of let it rest on the surface and slide over as opposed to actually pushing down.
As I got more comfortable carving, I noticed that the disc removes a larger amount of material than it looks like from above. There's a little bit of the disc that's hidden by the motor of the angle grinder, so just be aware of that.
After about 15 minutes, I started to get a really good feel for the disc. I noticed that holding the angle grinder at about a 30-degree angle seemed to give the best control. You'll notice that I have my right arm braced against my body, and that brings me to my next tip. So one of the other things I found that works really well is if you kind of anchor your elbow into your side and pivot at your hips.
That pivoting motion seemed to help us to get straighter and smoother cuts, but we were still having trouble getting things super straight. So we did a little Google search and came across a technique that we wanted to try.
We found a lot of people use templates similar to what we've used when routing shapes. And the reason this works is because the disc only has the cutting edge on the bottom and the sides are perfectly flat.
I did have a little slip up at first and chewed into the template since I had the disc angled up too much, but quickly figured out how to hold it to get a straight cut. It was really only about 25 minutes into our testing that we were ready to try to make something.
I grabbed another piece of scrap wood, but this time nailed down some more pieces to complete a template, and Miranda started carving away. One thing to keep in mind when making a template is that the disc has a fairly large radius, so any sharp corners are going to become rounded.
Also, while the double-sided tape worked well to hold the wood to the workbench, I think I would rather use clamps so I can pivot the workpiece around to get a better angle rather than having to awkwardly reach over the bench. The other thing that would make this easier is removing the guard, but that makes us super nervous, so it's going to stay on. But you can see how it gets in the way sometimes.
Carving this small bowl didn't take more than about 5 minutes, and after the rough shaping was done, it was time to test out the contour sander. This also attaches to the angle grinder and allows you to get into all the curved areas. Now somehow we lost the footage, but when you press down, the sanding pad actually bends to contour to all the curves.
Oh, and prying off the template pieces was kind of rough, so I think we'll use double-sided tape for the template on the full project. So to my surprise, this is actually a lot easier to get the hang of than I thought.
Yeah, I mean, in just about an hour, we went from whatever you want to call this to the shape that actually looks like a real bowl.
So at this point, I feel like we're comfortable enough to do a full-blown project.
Now in just a couple days, we're going to put out a full video of how we made a live edge bowl. So if you want to check out that video, make sure to subscribe right here so you don't miss that one.
And remember, if you're going to do one of these projects, make sure you're outside or you're wearing a respirator because...
While you're here, check out another project, and if you want to support the show, check out some of the awesome rewards we've got over on Patreon. See you on the next one.